And we're live. Welcome back, guys. And what's up? I'm Nick Canino. Welcome back to episode 9 of there we go. Episode 9 of the FilmBrony Podcast. Um as always, here's the host of the show who started it all. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi there, folks, and welcome to episode 9 of the FilmBrony Podcast, where I don't really have a joke for this. So, without further ado, let's begin.
Yeah, it's where we discuss movie-related stuff. So,
yeah,
you guys probably get the picture already.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as always, I do have quite a few Blu-rays to showcase before we get started. So let's begin.
Sweet.
Okay, so first up is Training Day.
Great movie by Antoine Fuqua.
Titanic.
A classic.
Theory of Everything.
One of the best movies from 2014.
Thelma and Louise.
Also a classic.
Steve Jobs, the Danny Boyle version.
One of the best movies from 2015. I love that movie.
Silver Linings Playbook.
One of David O. Russell's finest masterpieces he's made.
Silence.
One of Martin Scorsese's most overlooked films.
Sideways.
Great movie as well.
Raising Arizona.
The Coen Brothers. Another great movie.
Phantom Thread.
One of the best movies from 2017. Paul Thomas Anderson is the shit.
Oblivion.
Nice.
Lost in Translation.
Great movie.
King Kong, the Peter Jackson one.
That's another great movie.
Kingdom of Heaven.
A good movie.
One of the best movies of the year so far. The Invisible Man.
I totally agree. A great movie for sure. And I'm getting that for my birthday, so.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Great movie. Another great movie by the Coen Brothers.
The Imitation Game.
Great movie as well.
And last but not least, Apocalypto.
Nice.
Now, you may have noticed that unlike usual, I listed all these Blu-rays in reverse order. Now, that's because that's going to be the theme for our first movie review today, and that is for Christopher Nolan's highly anticipated movie, Tenet.
Which I've also seen along with Soren, so we're going to be talking about it as well.
Now,
I am. I'm sorry.
Now, since I live in New York, obviously theaters aren't open in my area for some reason, so I had to resort to reviewing this online if I wanted to get out the review in time.
Awesome.
And let me tell you, you finally did it, Nolan. You finally made a movie that actually messed with my brain. Intentionally, mind you. This is
mine too.
This is hands down the best movie of the year so far. Only Nolan can pull off such an insane plot like this, with all the time reversion and plot twists involved. While it is kind of hard to follow at times, I think that's the overall intention, since Nolan is infamous for his elaborate writing in films like Memento and Interstellar and such.
Yeah.
The performance is all spot on, and the music by Ludwig Göransson is exceptionally reliable and ingenious. But what really makes this movie are the visuals. How they showcase these insane stunts and effects is insane, especially with the best way I can put it without spoiling, multiple layers of action that is presented on screen. This insanity alone is worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
Guys, if theaters are open in your area, don't see this online. Buy a ticket in the theater and see it in the experience it was meant for, because it is truly one hell of a ride. And you bet your bottom dollar I'll be seeing it again the nanosecond theaters reopen in New York. 10 out of 10, best movie of the year so far.
All right, now for my take on it. I do agree with what he said. I think it's one of Nolan's I feel it's one of Nolan's better movies he's made in a while. I mean, while I don't think it's as like amazing as like well, I don't think it's as amazing as Dunkirk or The Dark Knight or Inception. I still think this is a wonderful film from Christopher Nolan and another masterpiece he's made in the belt. My only like nitpick I will say about the film is that there were a couple scenes towards like the second act. No spoilers, but that didn't quite make a lot of sense to me. But then again, that's only a minor nitpick. Everything else I really loved. I really loved, from the sound mixing to the performances, especially by John David Washington, Elizabeth Debicki, Robert Pattinson, Michael and Kenneth Branagh. All the performances are absolutely spectacular, and the musical score is fantastic. The directing by Nolan, the way he directs the shit out of this, is absolutely amazing, and the writing was terrific. While the story was a bit hard to follow at times, I think that was the whole point, because once I watched some analysis videos on what the film was trying to do, it made me appreciate the film even more. Oh yeah, and Elizabeth Debicki, I forgot to mention, she's also fantastic in the film too. The visual effects are amazing. The production values are terrific, and overall, it's a visually stunning, and overall, there's no denying that Tenet is Nolan's most complex movie he's made, but it is one of the most visually stunning, riveting, entertaining, and exhilarating films I've seen this year. I really love this movie. I think it's on my list as one of the best movies I've seen in 2020. 9.5 out of 10, or an A. Well done, Nolan.
All right, so my next review is for a movie that is 29 years in the making. Bill and Ted Face the Music. So after a classic 80s film and a sequel that people either love or hate, this could either make or break the legacy that Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter started back when. But this still promised, not just with the two of them back, but the director of Galaxy Quest to handle the project. Did they succeed? Yeah, they really did. While the story is nothing new and the effects look like something out of a low-budget fan film, what really makes this sequel the writing and the performances. Even in the early 50s, Keanu and Winter still bring the magic of Bill and Ted to the silver screen. And the rest of the characters are, while a bit underdeveloped, still welcome supporting players to the story. And Mabel Pines is in this movie too.
Oh wow!
In fact, and also the music is just the icing on this nostalgic cake. Overall, while Face the Music might be the weakest of the Bill and Ted movies, it's still a fun romp, and the two main actors still kill it, even if it's been decades since they first played it. If you're fans of Bill and Ted like I am, check this one out. If not, I'd say familiarize yourself with the previous two movies first. Overall, Bill and Ted Face the Music is a solid 7 out of 10.
Nice.
And now we get to a movie that's basically become the last Jedi of Disney's catalog of Disney live-action remakes, where the critics praise its ambition, while audiences seem split on whether it's a worthy remake or one that brings, unintended, dishonor to the original Disney classic and the original Chinese legend. and that is Disney's remake of Mulan.
I didn't see the film, so sorry, so I can't say anything.
Now, for the first 5 minutes, I thought I was in for something juvenile, with an unnecessary and cheesy opening scene depicting young Mulan chasing the chicken around town, completely parkouring around the buildings. But thankfully, director Nicky Carl left us an overall fun update to the original story with its solid cast, beautiful cinematography and production value, and thrilling action sequences, even though there are some weirdly edited moments here and there. So if you have Disney Plus, it's your choice whether the controversial $30 price tag is worth it, or if you should wait until December when it's free. But if you do wait, check this one out whenever you can, because it's so far in my personal top 5 favorite Disney live-action remakes of all time. So overall, Mulan is an 8 out of 10 for me.
All right.
And now we get to the bad stuff.
Oh boy.
And the first movie is a movie that's supposed to be released back in April 2018, but due to poor test screens, a ton of reshoots that were supposed to happen, but didn't end up occurring, and eventually the pandemic causing theaters to close, it was pushed 2.5 years all the way up to August 2020. So was the wait worth it? No, not even close. This reselling movie makes me wonder why they even delayed it in the first place. In case you don't know, it's Fox's last X-Men movie, The New Mutants. So the trailer makes it look like it's going to be Breakfast Club meets The Shining, and boy, they really messed this up big time. I mean, for the first 15 minutes, nothing happens. Just a bunch of powerful teenagers having boring conversations, while once in a while having lame jump scare visions to try to keep the audience members from keep the audience members from sleeping in the popcorn bins. And the characters are super boring and uninteresting as well. All leading up to a climax that is fantastic levels of cheesy and somehow boring at the same time. And much like Fantastic, its ending tries to tie things up while also saying up for a sequel that'll never happen. Wonderful. Fox, if this is your idea of rebooting the X-Men franchise, it's safe to say you freaking failed. Just be glad that the characters are in Disney hands now so they can bring the X-Men to justice once and for all. So avoid this generic bore fest by any means necessary, or save up your money for when Tenet comes to theaters. Because once I saw this movie, I owed X-Men Origins an apology. Because at least that movie kept my interest. This movie just bored me all the way through. So yeah, New Mutants is the overall New Mutants 3 out of 10, completely waste of time.
And I also did see the New Mutants. I pretty much agree with most of what he said. I mean, the only thing I disagree with is that while I do think it's a bad movie, I think it's just generic bad. I mean, it's not as bad as Dark Phoenix or X-Men or just Wolverine, but because those films were I feel those films were more abysmal experiences than the New Mutants. The reason why I don't think this is worse than those films, like Soren just stated, is because I thought the performances were fine for the most part, and especially from Anya Taylor-Joy, who tries to give it her all, and Maisie Williams also tries to give it her all too. It's the cinematography is decent, and the musical score I won't deny was pretty decent as well. It has one creepy scene towards the end of the second act of the film that actually had me gasping a bit. But then again, that's just only one scene. Everything else was just. Mm-mm. Although I will say this, I don't think the third act is as bad as the climax in Fan Four Stick, but it's still pretty bad. It's still pretty bad. So overall, especially the CGI bear, like, give me a break.
Yeah, really.
Give me a break. I mean, like I said, the CGI here isn't as bad as the CGI in Fan Four Stick, but then again, that's still a low bar to get over. So overall, while I do think the New Mutants is bad, I think it's just generic bad. Nothing more, nothing less. I pretty much also give it a 3 out of 10. Like I said, it's bad, but it's just generic bad.
And then we get the most controversial movie of the year so far.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So, as you may know, Netflix put up the poster and trailer for the latest film they acquired to distribute, a little French film entitled Cuties.
Oh my god.
Almost immediately, they received extreme scrutiny for marketing as a movie about twerking minors.
Which let me just get this off my chest. Shame on you, Netflix. Shame on you for thinking that this was a good idea for your marketing.
Yeah, really. Now, the film's director claimed that Netflix did a terrible job at marketing her film and said that her final product was nothing like they said it was. Thankfully, Netflix was prompted to update the poster and description to a more faithful description of a coming-of-age story about a girl who's torn between her family's traditional values and a group of friends around her age who like to do more adult things for fun, like dressing, revealing clothing, flirting with boys, etc. Well, seeing the movie for myself, don't ask why I saw it. I can confirm that this is not the sexualized tween movie that most people, including myself, feared it would be. I mean, sure, it does have parrot minus twerking, but it's not really the main focus. Instead, it's a cliched, predictable story that you've seen a billion times before. I mean, right from the very first shot, you can tell what each character is, every single situation they're going to be in, and how they're going to be in them. The protagonist hates her life, but her elder presses her to get used to her traditional life. But here come these new friends who show you their own ways of living life, and the protagonist has to hide that new life as not to embarrass her elder. You have seriously seen that so many times. And the worst part about it is, besides the obvious, it's so boring. Unmercifully boring. So many scenes drag on for so many minutes, too fucking long with little fucking impact. I mean, I could easily cut it down to like 45 minutes and you miss nothing. I'll just say it right now, even though it's well acted and competently directed, this kind of a bore fest would have probably slipped under the radar of 95% of the masses if it weren't for that cringy as hell marketing. So yeah, overall, Curious is not disturbing. Okay, some of it is, but it's mostly boring. Not as bad as I feared, but certainly not worth checking out either. Oh, and shame on you, Netflix, for the marketing. Just saying. 3 out of 10. Waste of time.
You know one more thing I want to get off my chest before we move on to another thing on the podcast. Apparently, the director of this movie was trying to get the message, like, apparently, for what I heard, is that the director of this movie was trying to get the message of stopping like child stopping like pedophilia when most of the pedophilia is placed on screen. So what's the point of like getting your message across if it seems contradictory? That makes no sense.
Yeah, really.
I mean, if you're going to present your message of pedophilia, that's fine, but do it in a subtle way. don't have it be a movie where it's just nothing but 11-year-old girls just twerking. I mean, and yet, you know what's even worse? People are saying that this is bad. People are getting up in arms with cuties being the worst thing that ever happened, and yet they're saying that anime is also problematic. Well, let me tell you the difference between cuties and anime. With anime, it's animated because with anime it's fine because they're able to get away with almost like everything since it's like animated. But with cuties, this is live action with 11-year-old girls just twerking, and it's just super uncomfortable to watch. Yeah. So to the guys that are blaming anime for this as well, guys, it's animated, okay? Okay? Not live action, animated. So, and if you're gonna blame anime for this as well as cuties, I'm sorry, but that seems contradictory. And anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Yeah. But thankfully, this isn't the only movie review that we're going to be talking about. Because our final review is going to be one of the greatest movies of all time. That is Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas.
Yep, I have the movie right here. I just watched this today to prepare myself for this, and apparently since my birthday's in 2 days, so I figured for this special episode, I figured I would do a review of this too. I've been waiting to do a review of this ever since I started doing YouTube back in late 2015, and now it's finally time for me to bring out my review, Soren and I's review of Goodfellas.
So the story basically follows this young man played by Ray Liotta, as it chronicles both his rise and fall of popularity as a gangster and all the situations he gets into and all the consequences on both his job and his love life with Lauren Bracco.
So basically, this is the true story of Henry Hill and the 3 decades he was in the mafia, and the relationship which he had with Karen Hill, who's played by Lorraine Bracco, and Henry Hill is played by Ray Liotta, and you also have Robert De Niro playing Jimmy Conway and Joe Pesci as Jimmy. So, guys, this movie is still a masterpiece to this day. Ever since its release in 1990, it's been regarded as one of the greatest films of all time, and honestly, it still deserves that honor because, and this may be me, but Goodfellas has always been, ever since I saw the film, Goodfellas has always been my all-time favorite movie. Why is that? Well, everything in this movie is just 100% perfect. From the filmmaking to the story to the characters to the writing to the execution and the way it was filmed, everything is just perfection. There is not one bad performance in the film. All the acting is absolutely terrific. From Robert De Niro to Ray Liotta, who is absolutely terrific as Henry Hill, to Joe Pesci, who easily deserved that Oscar for his performance because as Jimmy, because my God, him playing Jimmy my God, the Jimmy character is like one of the most monstrous and ferocious characters I've ever seen put to film. I mean, you do not want to mess with this guy. Lorraine Bracco is also fantastic too in this movie as Karen Hill, and so are Paul Sorvino, and although he has a small appearance, Samuel L. Jackson.
Really? I completely forgot he was in this movie.
Yeah, he had a small role. He played Staps.
Go on. I'll.
And one thing I also loved about this movie is the way Scorsese directs this movie, from the violent sequences to the dialogue to the acting to the story. The way he directs it is just unbelievable. This movie also, and speaking of the dialogue, it is absolutely riveting. From the way the characters speak to like having great humor in it, and it's just phenomenal, to say the least. Also, before I go on, I want to say hello to my friend Jose Castalum. Welcome to the live stream. And yes, I agree too that Joe Pesci as Nicky was in Casino was also phenomenal too.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Pesci, I'm telling you, he's one of my all-time favorite actors, and the way he acts in both Casino and Goodfellas, you're just like, how does this man even do it? It's unbelievable. The writing is terrific. The story had me emotionally invested throughout. The story was emotionally investing and very interesting and terrific. The soundtrack is terrific. The cinematography by Michael Ballhaus was absolutely terrific. Thomas Schoonmaker's editing was absolutely terrific. The pacing's terrific. And what really can I say about Goodfellas? It is the pure definition of a mob masterpiece. And we had some great mob movies before over the years, like the first two Godfather movies, in which I still consider them to be one of the greatest films of all time too. But this is the perfect example of a perfect mob movie. I loved everything about Goodfellas. And keep in mind, I watched this again this morning to prepare myself for it, and it still gets better and better and better the more you watch it. It is that great. Goodfellas, without a doubt, earns a rare 11 out of 10. One of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah, it's completely phenomenal. It's my second favorite Martin Scorsese film, behind Taxi Driver, and hands down the best movie of 1990. And while Dances with Wolves is a fantastic film on its own,
yeah,
this movie blows it out of the water.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, those are all of our reviews, and now we're gonna get to some discussions. Okay. Now, as you may know, the trailer for the latest adaptation of Frank Herbert's sci-fi epic Dune recently dropped on the internet. So in preparation and anticipation for Denis Villeneuve's latest effort, I thought it might be fun at Hollywood's first film adaptation in 1984, directed by David Lynch. So here's what happened. I started watching it, and at first it seemed like it was going to be a cult sci-fi classic. The story seemed interesting, and some of the effects actually looked pretty decent for the mid-'80s. But the more it dragged on, the story just became so hard to follow, and not to mention it was such a slog to sit through. So much so that right in the middle it seriously. It was one of the first movies in years that I walked in the middle of it. And I rarely walk out of movies. Eventually, I did go back and finish it, but nothing about the second half really interested me storylines. Sandwich were pretty cool, though.
And I also did watch some Dune as well, and I will admit, I love David Lynch, but this is my least favorite film that David Lynch has made.
Yeah, that's. So after all this, I turned on a little documentary from 2013 about the same subject, entitled Jodorowsky's Dune.
I've seen that documentary in 2014, and let me tell you, it is a phenomenal documentary.
It is. And right after viewing this documentary, my first thought was, man, why couldn't this have been the 1984 film? So
Right?
here's a little history. So in the mid-70s, Chilean director Alejandro Jodorowsky was in the height of his career, with his first two films, El Topo and The Holy Mountain, becoming cult successes. So when the studio approached him for his next big project, without thinking, Jodorowsky chose Dune. Why? He didn't know, but he knew that it was super popular and that it would be fun to adapt it. After reading the book, he realized that he didn't want to just make a film adaptation. He wanted to change the landscape of sci-fi and film as a whole. So soon he made this phone book-sized script treatment of the film, completely storyboards. And if one actually reads it, it's clear that he had an ambitious vision for it. Like, for example, the opening scene would have been a Touch of Evil style long shot that spans the entire galaxy, which would have been technically impossible back in the mid-70s. For the overall design, he hired Dark Star special effects supervisor Daniel Barron to handle the visual effects, the Joy of Sexes, Chris Foss to design much of Dune's world, and future alien designer H.R. Geiger to create the vision of the villains, and Pink Floyd and/or Magma to compose the music. And the cast sounds like something else. Outside of casting his own son Brontes as the main protagonist, Paul Atreides, he had in mind to cast David Carradine, Mick Jagger, Salvatore Dali, Gloria Swanson, and even Orson Welles in this film. Insane, right?
That's insane.
There was only one catch, though. As it turns out, much of the proposed budget was already spent trying to get these people together, and Jodorowsky was unsuccessful in getting further funding from major Hollywood studios because A, Jodorowsky was just too weird of a director for them, B, his vision was too ambitious to pull up in 1975, and C, no one really wanted to see what was proposed as a 10 to 15-hour feature film. Eventually, Universal bought the rights to Herbert's novel. The 1984 film You Know Today was made, and Jodorowsky's movie ended up not getting made.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because in 1990 he would do an independent film that is controversial but also amazing. It's called Sana Sangre, also known as Holy Blood.
But his efforts were not fruitless, as not only did he incorporate much of his ideas into his 1980s comic book series entitled The Incal, but the copies of his Dune script inspired many sci-fi movies in the coming decades, such as Star Wars, Alien, as mentioned, Flash Gordon movie, and The Fifth Element. So, after a visionary but doomed project in the 1950s and a disastrous first attempt in the 1980s, will Denis Villeneuve still be the adaptation book fans and casual moviegoers we're looking for? Who knows? But it's safe to say that from what we got, it's bound to be the savior of 2020 in cinema. That is, if it even releases in 2020 anymore.
I know what you mean, man. I mean, this year has been the worst. Not just for cinema, but for the whole world in general, because of so many so many fucking insane things, especially with the pandemic, that you just quite wonder. You just quite wonder if some of the movies you've been anticipating for are going to get released either this year or like next year.
Yeah. All right. So our next discussion is a bit of recent movie news. It's about director Francis Ford Coppola looking to re-edit and re-release The Godfather Part 3 later this year.
Nice.
So to quote Marco Corleone in the movie, just when we thought we were out, they pull us back in. So
just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
So whether you love or hate this final installment of this influential saga, it's safe to say that it barely lived up to expectations. So Coppola intends to fix that and give us the finale he wanted to make without all the studio meddling. To quote the man himself, and I quote, Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, is an acknowledgement of Mario's and my preferred title and our original intentions for what became The Godfather Part 3. For this version of the finale, I created a new beginning and ending and rearranged some scenes, shots, and music cues. With these changes and restored footage and sound, to me, it is a more appropriate conclusion to The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, and I'm thankful that to Jim Dion and Paramount for allowing me to revisit it. I gotta say, it's going to be quite interesting to see an entirely new vision of his own film. What do you think?
I think it's interesting because I think it's a good idea because, like, I did like this movie. I did like The Godfather Part 3. But I did not like the ending at all. The ending was very, very underwhelming, to say the least, and it was something that I really wish we could have gotten a better ending to, which is why I gave it an 8 out of 10. But it's good. It's good that that there are going to be some re-edits on how The Godfather Part 3 should have ended instead of the actual ending that we got back when it was released in 1990.
I mean, I did see it for myself a long time ago. I gave it a 10 out of 10 along with the other ones, but something tells me I should probably rewatch it and reevaluate my feelings toward it.
Like I said, I do think it's a good movie, but it is the weakest of the three films because of the missed potential the ending had.
All right, so our final discussion is going to be something that the Academy Awards did that may leave some scratching heads.
Oh, I heard about this.
So, after a recent history of struggling to nominate and honor films of diversity, they're looking to fix that by changing eligibility for films nominated for Best Picture. So, starting in 2024, Best Picture nominee must meet two of the following four standards. Either A, either its lead actor, one of the major supporting players, or 30% of my roles are women, underrepresented in race, ethnicity, Black, Hispanic, etc., LGBTQ or disabled, or a story has to do with either these minority groups. B, either two of the major people behind the camera, director, cinematographer, costume designer, etc., or 30% of the overall film crew belong to one of those minorities. 3, the film's production or marketing distribution has minorities involved via internships or apprenticeships. Or D, the marketing publicity team has minorities involved. I gotta be honest, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. I mean, it's good that they're trying to get minorities involved, especially from a history. But I think that I don't think that this is the right way to do it. I mean, whatever happened to judging films by its own merit? Judging films, judging films by its own merit, by how well it tells the story with its script, acting, etc.
I think I'm pretty much on the same boat as you, honestly.
Yes. And last thing we're going to be doing here on the podcast is something that we've been doing through the past two episodes, and rank all 1970s Best Picture winners from worst to best, or from least excellent to the most extraordinary. Okay,
Right.
so what? So number 10 is Kramer versus Kramer.
I think it's one of my all-time favorite movies, to be honest.
Even though I think that Alien and Apocalypse Now should have won that year.
Apocalypse Now, I do agree with, but Alien, well, I do think it's a great movie. I don't personally think it's the best film of 1979. It's a great movie, don't get me wrong, but not personally the best. But that's just me.
Number 9 is Patton.
That's a great movie. But I think if I were to be completely honest, I think Five Easy Pieces or MASH should have won Best Picture.
Five Easy Pieces I'm not too familiar with.
It's with Jack Nicholson.
I'll have to look it up sometime. Number 8 is Rocky.
Another great movie.
Even though I'd say that Taxi Driver was the best year of that year.
Yeah, I agree too.
And I gotta say that Rocky's franchise is a few nowadays, being this silly boxing series. People tend to forget that the original Rocky is this realistic, dramatic movie about this guy trying to be popular. It's basically a how do you say it? A underdog story. So yeah, that's number 8. Number 7 is Woody Allen's Annie Hall.
Definitely. Look, people may say what they want about Woody Allen, and I do agree that what he did was absolutely despicable. What he did was absolutely despicable. But like I said, I like to separate art from the artist most of the time.
Same here. And even though that Star Wars is obviously the best film of 77, there's no taking away that Annie Hall is this it's a well acted and funny romantic comedy.
Absolutely.
Number 6, A French Connection.
Another great movie. Although I do feel that The Last Picture Show should have won Best Picture because it takes a lot of guts and imagination to make something unique as making a movie like at a small Texas town in black and white and as a coming of age story. It takes a lot of guts and imagination for Peter Bogdanovich to do something like that. That's why I think that film should have won Best Picture. But this is a great movie too.
Number 5 is The Godfather Part 2.
A masterpiece, one of the greatest sequels of all time.
Number 4 is the movie that beat The Exorcist back in 1973. But to be honest, I think that I actually kind of prefer this movie over The Exorcist, but I'm probably in the minority on this. Number 4 is The Sting.
I'm with you on that. That's a great movie.
Number 3 is Michael Cimino before he became controversial, The Deer Hunter.
Another great movie. And before you ask, yes, I'm well aware of the controversy over Heaven's Gate and how it bankrupted like United Artists, but But to be honest, I think it's the most. I think Heaven's Gate is the most underrated film I've ever seen.
Number 2 is Milos Forman's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
A masterpiece.
And number 1 is pretty obvious, Godfather.
I have the same number 1 as you, honestly.
How would you rank them personally?
Okay, my ranking for them, number 10, Patton. Again, while I do think it's a great movie, I don't think it's the best film of 1970. MASH, I think is the better film, and so is Five Easy Pieces. Number 9, The French Connection. It is a wonderfully acted and well-made movie, but then again, I think the last Picture Show should have won that year. Number 8, Kramer versus Kramer. Again, another well-acted and another movie that is so well-acted and very well-made. But I agree that that Apocalypse Now would have been the better choice to win Best Picture, because really think about it. A lot of the cast and crew went through a lot of hell in production of this movie. Like, I'm talking like typhoons and stuff. And yet when the final product came out in 1979, it turned out to be such an amazing motion picture. That's why I think it's the best film, 1979. But Kramer versus Kramer is a great movie too. And as for number 7, I would also put Rocky number 7. And look, say what you want about the sequels. Like, I do agree, Rocky 5 is not a good movie, but I don't think it's really that bad. I love Rocky 2. Rocky 3 and 4 I thought were decent. And Rocky Balboa, which is the 6th film, I thought was a good movie too. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the Rocky pictures. Number 6, trying to think of the number 6 spot. Oh yeah, yeah. Annie Hall goes into number 6. Thank you. Number 6 is Annie Hall. I love this movie. I think it's Woody Allen's finest masterpiece. And while I do agree that Star Wars is the best film of '77, this is a great movie too. Number 5 is The Sting. I agree with Soren that although The Exorcist is a great movie, I think The Sting is like the more well-made film of 1973. And at number 4 is Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter. Number 3 is Milos Forman's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Number 2 and number 1 are obvious, but come on. How can you not deny both of these films that are masterpieces? Number 2 is The Godfather Part 2, and number 1, same as Soren's, the first Godfather movie.
So yeah, those are all the things we have to talk about today. We're sorry that this isn't nearly as long as some of the other ones, but we didn't really have as much to talk about as previous episodes.
Yeah, and another reason is because I have a lot of stuff to do, like for the next 2 days, starting like today and tomorrow, so especially since my birthday's coming up this Sunday. So that's why we didn't have that much to talk about. But I would like to thank you guys. Soren and I would like to thank you all very much for joining in for this podcast. It was despite the fact that it was shorter than most of the podcasts that we do, it was still a lot of fun to discuss movies like this.
So yeah, we'll see you for the first double-digit FilmBrony Podcast episode, whenever it may be, and I guess we'll see you then.
And as always, be sure to subscribe to Soren on his. be sure to subscribe to Soren FilmBrony on his Boy Thunder Productions channel. The link is in the description. Give him the love he absolutely deserves. He's a great. He's not only just a great friend, but a great YouTuber as well. And until we meet again for episode 10 of the FilmBrony Podcast, hope you all have a great weekend. And as always, stay safe. See you next time.